So welcome, Ryan. And then once Ryan's done, we'll start with Peter. Thanks.
Thank you for having me today. Let me go to my screen here again. So as it was mentioned, I'm owner, photographer of Birds Photography. Got into photography in 1996, and the company was formed in 2009. Essentially, I do commercial photography, mainly real estate, residential, commercial, Airbnb, vacation homes, headshots, and business portraits. Like I said, business marketing, events for business and nonprofits, and also product photography. Some of the things I currently offer, still photos. I do not place a cap on the number of photos that are given. The property basically dictates the number of photos necessary, and you have access to all the edited shots after I'm done. Also do virtual tours through iGuide, as well as virtual staging. And I basically go just about anywhere. Bucks, Monaco, Philadelphia. I've been up to the Poconos, out to Lancaster, most of New Jersey, and down into the Delmarva Peninsula. So like I said, I do virtual tours with iGuide. It's similar to Matterport. I tend to lean towards it being a little bit better than Matterport. You get an immersive 3D tour with a floor plan. You can teleport throughout the floor, the virtual tour, or you can act like you're walking through it. It's still photos, a photo gallery, property details, room information like the size of the room. You can tag the appliances like the hot water heater when it was installed. There's a measurement tool to see if the furniture is going to fit. There's downloadable floor plans. You can also add them to as JPEGs to your social media. Neighborhood information, local schools, restaurants, stores, public transportation, parks, things like that. Like I said, you can share most of this on social media as well. It comes branded and non-branded, so you can put it in MLS. And there's also flyer creation tools, and you get weekly analytics reports from that as well to see where your viewers are coming from. What I can bring for you: flexibility with scheduling, arriving on time, no unnecessary time spent on site, attention to detail, photos from different angles, so you can pick which one you want to showcase better. Quick turnaround times, usually it's within 24 hours. Mainly it's before that. Virtual tours is standard is next day, and all photos are edited. So here's my contact information. There's a QR code to make it easier for you. It gives you access to everything you see there. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ryan. We appreciate all of your support of BCAR. And if anybody has any questions, they can just contact Ryan directly, or we can put you in touch with Ryan. And now, without further ado, here's Peter. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to see you. Let me get started here with my presentation. And thanks for all for coming over the holidays here. I hope you're getting ready for a great holiday. And to my Jewish friends, let's talk to them about moving that calendar up a little or back a little bit. Congratulations, but it was early this year. Anyway, let me get over here to my presentation. And I want to talk a little bit about a program that's been around since 2003 called Streak. It's a CRM that's a plug-in to Gmail. And when we were talking about software and tools that our membership might be interested in with the committee, I had raised this because I use it. I've used it a couple of times. I have a CRM system, plus I use this one because it is so, it's tied into Gmail and suits my needs exponentially. But it's also free and available for anyone who has a plug-in to Gmail, and I think you might find this an interesting tool. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about why we're all here. In today's agenda, I'm certainly going to talk about Streak CRM for agents. I'm going to do a little CRM overview of CRMs in general, so we get down the flavor of the terminology. I'm going to talk a little bit about features and benefits. Then we're actually going to go into some videos that have been prepared, because I think it's the best way to learn a program is to actually see it in action. And then I'm going to go out and do a little live demo. And I'm not sure how that's all going to go, but again, it's going to be fine. Just going to show you how I'm doing, how I'm using it, and maybe there's some might be able to glean some things from there, as well as a little Q&A. So hopefully we'll do this all in under an hour. I certainly will. But with that, I think we'll get started here. So a little backstory. So what's a CRM system and why can they be complicated? CRM systems is actually an acronym for Customer Relationship Management. The number of businesses selling CRMs in the US today is actually 2,498. And why is that important? Well, it's really not, other than to point out that in order to compete against so many vendors, providers need to tailor their products to specific industries or corporate entities. So just as food manufacturers add sugar, CRMs provide or put in complexity. However, how the average salesperson actually uses a CRM is, well, about the same. The basic functions of tracking a customer, capturing key data such as contact information, product interest, call logs, notes, attachments, emails that are sent and received, what's kind of new, texts that are sent and received. That's kind of coming, and frankly, not there fast enough. Predicting what's going to close and when it's going to close, that's a traditional sales funnel, really hasn't changed since the days of Goldmine and Act. And if you've been in sales for less than 20 years, please disregard that reference if you don't know what those tools are. That's how we used to do things, but more importantly, what has changed? Complexity. So marketing, finance, management now attach their bloody requirements to every contact record. And for the sales guy, it takes about 3 times to actually create a contact record. And, we used to joke about it in Silicon Valley as the Christmas tree effect. We're just hanging this and hanging that on the record. And sometimes it's rather frustrating because you may not have all that information that marketing, finance, or management is asking for, because you met the guy at the gym, in the sauna. And, wasn't a pretty picture, but all you have is a name and all you have is some things, and you don't have a lot of information now. So anyway, those CRM systems have migrated to become enterprise management systems, and frankly, not basically for the better for as the salespeople are concerned. So where I wanted to end the slide was mostly on the bottom line. CRMs are relationship management systems. And what is the key to success in real estate per Mr. Buffini? Relationships. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about basic CRM terminology. Now, there are 5 key elements of a CRM, and I'm translating this for salespeople. And there might be a little bias here because I've used these for years, but more importantly, lead management, keeping track of inbound noise. And again, in our business, there's a lot of noise. And making sure that you can capitalize on it. Success is obtained through follow-up and follow-through, and hope is not a strategy. And where I'm going with that is that, you send an email, and you hope that they'll respond, they'll read it, that they'll get back to you in a short period of time. But if you don't set a task for yourself, or you don't have a way in order to follow up or remember what you sent, well, then you're kind of hoping that you'll, conduct business or get business as opposed to driving that business. Now, part 2 would be sales management. This is kind of a way for the C-suite or the executives to assign unrealistic revenue goals and basically feel like they're running things. All right, that's a little bit of a joke, but true. They can sit back and kind of see activities that are going on within the organization. How much revenue is in the pipeline, who's doing what, the goal of contact management in these systems is to provide a level of organization never obtained in real life, because of the amount of data that we're all trying to cover, especially in real estate. But you looking to capture customer details, notes, attachments, basically all in one place so you can find it later. Most CRMs have some kind of marketing analytics associated with, which is kind of boils down to a way for marketing to hand off unqualified web leads without having to actually talk to the customer about their interest or you per se. They kind of go in and they're asking the salespeople to kind of follow up and follow through. And, you know, those are real opportunities or can be real opportunities. And if you don't capitalize on them, you don't call on them, then nothing's going to happen. And then last but not least, most CRM systems have some kind of help desk customer support, making sure that the great unwatched next to you actually gets your customer's name right when they call and they don't screw up your renewal. But more importantly, the key concept is most CRMs are based upon a sales funnel model. Simply put, a sales funnel is a step-by-step plan to move prospects from an interest in your product to becoming a customer of your product. Now, in our case, it's a little bit different in real estate, an interest in a property, becoming a buyer of that property, but basically it's the same thing. Better funnels include a focus on maintaining customer loyalty and retention, so you don't have to go out and find new ones. In our particular case, we want to maintain that loyalty and retention. So hopefully they will refer you later and you can find future business without having to go plow the streets to go find new ones. Anyway, the goal, of course, is to move prospects down the funnel as they engage with you and take specific actions. You know, a funnel for real estate would likely include more stages, but it doesn't really have to. So in this particular classic model, there's an awareness of the product, there's consideration of your product, there's a preference for a particular part of your product, there's the purchase phase, and then there's, you know, customer follow-up and loyalty. So Streak, I always like Wikipedia and just wanted to add this one quick slide here, you know, is an American software company that came into business about 2011. Their startup and their product description is best described as a spreadsheet style customer relationship management plugin for Gmail that supports both Google Chrome and Safari web browsers, yada yada. But you know, hats off to Wikipedia. It's always a great resource for a brief intro on things. So what I want to mmove now is to something features and benefits about Streak. And I want to get some of the detail, but more importantly, I want to get to the visual because I think it's the best way to learn it. But it's got absolute spot-on integration with Gmail, and that's one of the reasons why I like it, and one of the reasons I would recommend it. You manage your contacts and your sales from inside Gmail. This means that you don't have to interrupt your workflow to go track a lead. If you use a variety of CRM systems, you're always constantly copying emails or copying contact information or populating this or populating that, attaching things. And frankly, it's quite a process, just as I like to say, feeding the tool, meaning giving the tool all the things that you need so hopefully you can find it later. Streak does that automatically. They log the customer's email and attachments under a contract record. You can make notes, you can add tasks, you can set reminders, you can send messages. Those messages can be canned, pre-produced and or free-form. You know, hey, saw you at the club today. It was nice talking to you, yada, yada. Off it goes. And there's a record that's created of that email. Know when to follow up and follow through is really one of the key aspects of it. It has built-in tracking that notifies you when, where, and how often an email has been viewed. It's watching notifications. If you watch those, for example, you can call a lead exactly when they're reading your email, which is a little scary, but it is, you know, hey, just wanted to touch base and how timely that they happen to be reading your email at the time. I'll say this a couple of times. It is free. They do make their money on team versions, which we'll get to in a little bit later. But more importantly, if you know how to use Gmail and Google Sheets or Excel, you really have all the training you need in order to use this. You don't need to be able to code or customize it. The comprehensive data input columns are designed to, accept numbers, text, drop downs, menus, checkboxes, yada, yada. There's actually back one page. There's actually magic columns that will pull metadata automatically. So last contacted day, days and stage, yada, yada. The thing that I like about Streak is that it can evolve as your sales process evolves. So if your sales strategy changes or you add a team member, you can update it immediately. You can add a column, much like you would in a spreadsheet. You can rearrange those stages up or down if you want to emphasize some process before another process, or delete any record you can at any time. Get immediate context, everything you need to know, yada yada. I'm want to shorten this up because I'm aware of features and benefits are always difficult to listen to, but lately you can add snippets, which these are pre-prepared email things about your standard stuff that you constantly write all the time. Please give me a call at your earliest convenience, yada yada, Peter, with my contact information, those kinds of things. You can write those kinds of things. And as I said before, it is free and it's something that you may want to try. So let's get into actually seeing this in action. So I grabbed 3 videos that I thought were pretty good off of their webpage that I'd like to show you. They're not that long. I will cut some of them in half, but let's get ahead and get a visual and kind of see how this thing looks like, or see what it looks like.
Streak. In this video, we'll show you how Streak works and helps you organize your inbox, collaborate with your team, and be more productive in Gmail. This video is an introduction to help you understand the different ways you can use Streak. We'll go into more detail about setting up and beginning to use Streak in following videos. First, let's do a quick overview of the key components of Streak and how they all fit together. Our inboxes are full of emails with our contacts, like the email here with my contact Joelle. With Streak, we can organize all of those emails into boxes. A box is a place to store all of our information about a certain thing that we're tracking. So we can add emails, jot down notes, attach files, create tasks for ourselves, and more, and keep it all organized in one place. We can also share these boxes with our teammates when we need to collaborate on deals or share information cross-functionally. Depending on what we're tracking, a box could be a sales lead, a support ticket, a candidate for a job, or anything else. In this example, we're tracking sales leads, and here we have our lead, Red Rooster Cafe. Each of our boxes is listed as a row in a pipeline. We move it through stages in our process as we complete actions like reaching out to a lead for the first time, giving a demo, scheduling interviews, or resolving a support ticket. Now that we've seen how we can organize emails and information in boxes and pipelines, we'll dive in and see how it all works. Let's start somewhere familiar, the Gmail inbox, and take a closer look at my email with Joelle from Red Rooster Cafe. Since I've added this email to a box in Streak, we can see the box details in the sidebar. This shows us what pipeline stage our lead is in, and that the next step is to send them coffee samples. We can also see who this lead is assigned to, and that there are a couple tasks to complete before we move them to the next stage. The contacts section shows us the individual people and companies that are involved in this deal. There's Joelle, and all of her contact information is organized in this contact card. From here, I can create a calendar invite for our upcoming call and invite her with one click. Reviewing my team's activity helps us stay up to date on recent calls and other interactions, so we know where the conversation left off before replying to an email. We can also see details that we're tracking, like what products they're interested in, how they learned about us, and more. If I learn something new in an email, I can update this lead in the sidebar without leaving my inbox. All of this information is organized within the box for this lead. This sidebar shows us information from the box, and we can navigate to the Red Rooster Cafe box from here. In addition to holding all of our information, the box is a workspace for this lead where we can find our tasks, comments that my team and I left for each other, emails that we've shared in Streak, and notes from our calls and meetings in chronological order. We can even add files to boxes to keep everything super organized. But we're not just tracking this lead in Streak. We can track all of our leads in shared pipelines. Here's the Red Rooster Cafe box that we were just looking at. It's one row in this pipeline, and we have a row for every sales lead that we're working with. Clicking any of these rows will open a box where we can find information about that lead. In addition to our sales leads, we have pipelines to track other processes like customer training, support, content, and hiring. Each pipeline is completely customizable. Remember when we updated the close date from the sidebar in our email with Joelle? Close date and the other fields that we saw are columns in this pipeline. And we can add as many columns as we need to track all of the important details about our leads. We can also add columns, which are called magic columns, where Streak automatically fills in the data for us. For example, here's a column that automatically shows who sent the last email and when, how many emails we've exchanged, and how many days this lead has been in the current stage. Check out our deep dive video on columns to learn more about different types of columns that you can add to your pipeline. As my team adds more emails and data to Streak, we use the information in our pipelines to prioritize our daily work. I created a saved view to filter based on the assigned to column and show only the deals that are assigned to me. And another view to show me which deals haven't had any interaction in a week, so I know where I need to follow up. My third saved view shows me all of the deals that were closed this week by my team. Once we know what needs attention, we can take a look at our leads that need follow-up and create a mail merge to reach out personal emails to each lead. This only takes a moment because my team has created this.
Okay, I want to stop there for just a second, and because they're going to get into teams and more things, and I have some other videos that are associated with that. But I want to go into another one that was done by one of their salespeople for this presentation. I called him and he sent this to me, which I think is helpful, which gives a little bit more of an in-depth into the inbox, moving things around and going from place to place, which I think you might find interesting. Set up real quick. And it will get there. Now he's got a little bit of a waterfall going on in the background, so be mindful of that. But here we go.
Hey guys, this is Ravel from over the Streak team. Today I'm going to be walking us through a quick demo of the program. So we're going to be looking at a sales use case, and our goal here is really just to cover all of the core functionality of Streak in an easy 10-minute video. So I'm going to open up this email here. We have a new lead that we want to start to track in our system. So I'll come right up and I'll start to put this inside by naming the lead and putting it in our sales pipeline. Now from here on the right here, we have these custom fields that have popped up, and all of these can be changed to fit whatever it is that you'd like to track about a client. But this is just to give you a quick idea of the kinds of things that we typically find people are most interested in being able to track, right? So I'm filling in the data that I can either glean from this email, or maybe I know a little bit about Ken and his company here. So once I've filled in all of that, I can come right over here to the sales pipeline itself, and there's our lead right at the top, and all of our data is already in the system. So you'll notice that I didn't have to do any context switching. I'm not opening up another tab to go into a different program. I'm not jumping around a bunch. Everything's inside of your inbox, which is very intentional. This view here is what we call the pipeline view. At the top, we have the different stages that we'll be moving through, from a new lead to closed. And all of these stages can, of course, be changed to fit whatever process it is that you'd like to be tracked. So I can change the names, move them around. I can play with the color schemes as well. Below the stages, what we're looking at is essentially a spreadsheet. So each of these columns here is representing a different data point that we're tracking. And each of the rows is representing a different lead that's going to be moving through the system. And so internally, we often refer to these rows as boxes. So if you're reading a Streak article or watching another video and we're talking a lot about boxes, that's what these rows are going to be representing here. If we wanted to add in a new column to track something else about a client, we would do so just by going right up here and clicking Insert New. We have the basic types, so free form, date, checkbox, dropdown, etc. And then we also have what are called magic columns. Now, magic columns are special because those are the ones that you don't ever fill in any data for. This is info that we're going to either pull directly from Gmail or from Streak itself. A good example of that would be the date of the last email column here. I actually can't type anything in there. We're pulling that information straight from Gmail, serving it up to you. Now, next, I want to scroll down a little ways, and I want us to go ahead and click into one particular lead. So we're going to use American Airlines as our example here, and we're going into what we call the box view. Now, the box view is just a zoomed-in view of one particular client. So on the right here, we have these custom columns. So these are all the ones from our pipeline view previously. Below that, we have our contacts and organizations, which I'll come back to in just a moment. And then on the left, we have a news feed of all of the interactions that our team has had, either with this client or about the client internally. So this is where we'll be doing a lot of the collaboration and working together with other people. So let's say that I've been speaking with American Airlines for a while now, and I just really need my colleague Peter's assistance on this. I can come right up here to add a comment, and I can mention Peter and ask him, hey, can you look this over? Now, when I do that, it's going to send an email directly to Peter's inbox, which will link him back to this view. So he's going to be able to look over the custom columns and get a general idea for what kind of client we're dealing with. He can also click into the emails tab here and he's going to be able to read and respond to any of these emails, whether or not he was on them initially. So it's really just an excellent way for someone to step in and take over a conversation that's opening up the inbox in a lot of ways. If somebody goes on vacation, it's very easy for Peter to jump in and say, hey, love to continue the conversation with you while my colleague is out. Let's keep talking. Any files that have been attached to emails sent back and forth will automatically be scraped, and a link to them will be stored right here. So you don't have to go digging around in your inbox to try to find the order form or the contract that was sent over a while back. Everything's centrally located. I can also manually attach any files to Google Drive right up here with this little paperclip button. Now let's say that Peter comes in, he looks over these emails, and he wants me to go ahead and get moving on this. So he has two options. He could respond back to my comment right here, which would notify me and bring me back into the box view. Or he can also come up and he could create a task for me. And he could say, send the contract. Maybe he knows that we're going to need our legal guy on this. So he's going to include him on this one. And he's going to say that this needs to be due Friday at noon. Now, when you do that, it does two things. So the first thing is the task is going to appear right over here on our Google Calendar. And the second thing is the task will be sitting right over here on this orange checkbox. This is just a chronological list of all the tasks that you have coming up. So the last thing that I want to cover inside of this box view here is contacts and organizations. So anytime you have a specific individual that's associated with the account, American Airlines in this example, or a company that would be associated with this account, you'll either drop in the email address of the individual or the company name right over here. Now, when you do that, you're linking this box to any other accounts that also have Ravel Holland, for example, the example here, or a demo conference and their boxes. So it's very easy for me to see all of the accounts that are associated with demo conference by just coming right up here. And all of the different boxes that are associated with them are appearing here, as well as all of the email correspondence back and forth from anyone on our team to anyone at demo.com. One other cool trick with contacts and organizations is the ability to turn on what's called automatic email sharing. So when I turn this on, this is actually going to pull in all email history from this individual to anyone on our stream team. And it's going to automatically make sure that moving forward, any future emails are also pulled in so that all of the emails from this person are going to be in a central location for us. The last thing, or now that we've covered the box view pretty well, I want to step back out and I'm going to show you my favorite part of Streak. So we're back here inside of the pipeline view. And as a salesperson, it's really important for me to make sure that I'm reaching out to my clients on a very consistent basis. I don't want anybody sitting in my pipeline for 2-3 months at a time without having any kind of communication with me. It's just leaving money on the table. So in this pipeline here, I have a total of 40 leads, and I want to make sure that I'm touching bases with them at the very least once per week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right up to this button right here, the Save View Editor. And this is going to allow me to create filters that are based on any of the columns that I have inside of the pipeline. So the first column I'm going to look at is assigned to. And I'm going to say, I want to see anything that's assigned to me specifically. The second column I'm going to look at is going to be the stage. So I don't want to see anything that's archived, closed, lost, or closed won. So I only want those active deals that are potential clients right now. And then I'm going to create one last option here, one last filter rather. And that one is going to be looking at the date of the last email. And I want anything that is before 7 days ago. So these are my responsibility. They're potential clients, and I haven't spoken with them in at least a week. I'm going to apply that. And you can see we've narrowed it down to 12 from our original list of 40. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this view here. And we're going to call this 1 week, no contact. So once I've saved it, I can give it a star so that now it lives right here underneath the main pipeline as a saved view or a subsection of that pipeline. And the great thing about this is it's a dynamic list. So if I were to send an email to anyone on the list here, they would no longer meet my third criteria and they would automatically drop off. Conversely, tomorrow, it might have been a week since I spoke with someone else, and this number here would tick up to 13. Now, where this becomes absolutely essential in my day-to-day as a salesperson is I can then click the Show in Inbox feature right over here. I could also toggle it on in the Save View itself right here. And once I've done that, anytime that I log into my Gmail, right at the top of my screen, it's going to let me know if there's anybody for whom it's been a week since I spoke with them. So that's really just handy because it's going to put all of your work that's most pressing for you right at the very top of your inbox. In my day-to-day, in addition to just zeroing out my inbox from any new communications that I've had with customers, I also try to make sure that my saved views are all zeroed out before I walk out of the office. The last thing that I want to show you today is how we can use some of our email power tools to make communicating with batches of customers more effective. So let's again go back to the 1 week no contact example. I'm going to click back to that save.
All right, I want to stop there. And I know there was a lot to see and a lot of detail. We're going to slow down a little bit and kind of go back to looking at how you set up something, because it really is not, there was a lot there, I realize, in seeing it for the first time, but frankly, it's really not that difficult. Let's talk a little bit about in the next video, they're going to talk about an introduction to pipelines. And this is where you can kind of customize Streak to the way your workflow, the way you work, the stages that your customers are in, and those kinds of things. But let me roll that real quick, and then we'll pop out and have a discussion. So here we go.
Pipelines allow you to track information through a process. In this video, we'll show you the 3 components of a pipeline: stages for each step of your process, columns to track detailed data, and rows, which are the actual things you're moving through your pipeline. A pipeline looks like a spreadsheet, but it can actually do a lot more. In fact, it's the main tool we'll use to manage our workflow in Streak. This pipeline is for tracking sales leads, but we also have a pipeline for customer success, support, content, and hiring. Pipelines are completely customizable, so we can use them to track anything. At the top of the pipeline, we can see our stages and how many things are currently in each stage. Each stage represents a step in our process, like incoming leads, contacting leads for the first time, pitching them, and so on for each action that we take with a sales lead. If we're tracking something else, like a hiring pipeline, we would have stages that represent each candidate's interview process. When we complete an action, like reaching out to new leads, move each lead to the next stage to keep track of where they are in your process. You'll notice the numbers at the top of our pipeline update to show how many boxes we currently have in each stage. The goal, of course, is to move our boxes through our pipeline to the right. Next up are pipeline columns. All of the information that we want to track about our leads gets stored in these columns. We can choose what information to track in our pipelines, like whether or not our lead is interested in training, which products they want to buy, or when the deal is expected to close. Some columns even magically fill in data for us, so we have tons of useful information in our pipeline. Check out our deep dive video on columns to learn more about which ones to use in your pipelines. Finally, each row in our pipeline is one thing, in this case, a sales lead that we're tracking. We call these boxes because they can hold all different types of information. Inside each box, we can add emails with our contacts, jot down notes from phone calls and meetings, leave comments for our team or as a little note to self, and a whole lot more. The information on the right side of the screen probably looks familiar because it's another view of the columns that we saw in our sales pipeline. Contacts and organizations store contact information like addresses and phone numbers all in one place and give us shortcuts to draft emails, send calendar invites, make calls, and more directly from our pipeline view. Now that we've learned the basics of pipelines, it's time to build your own. We'll show you how to master your workflow and keep things moving through your pipelines in the following lessons.
Okay, I want to stop there. Hopefully that last one was a little bit of help for the next section that we're going to go into. Let me move down a little bit here. So I'm going to go into a live demo and kind of show you some of the things that I've done, and perhaps you can glean from there some ways that you may want to use the tool. So if I go over to my inbox specifically, I'm going to show you some of the pipeline that I have created specifically as a realtor. Now, the last demos that we have were for coffee sales. You can use it for a variety of different things. And I went in and through overtime made some adjustments, and I created a pipeline that basically looks at the first one. MQL is an old marketing term called marketing qualified lead. This is where things first come in. You're first aware of it. You're sent an email or someone says, here's a referral, here's somebody you should talk to, those kinds of things. Nothing has been done there. A sales qualified lead, that's what's called an SQL. I don't know where it went, where it happened to it. Come back. I guess it, anyway, interesting. Okay. It's catching up. Sales qualified lead is where I've had a conversation with the customer, or more specifically, I haven't had a customer. I've reached out, I've tried, we still don't know any progress, what to do with the customer yet. And so it's sitting in that stage waiting for me to move forward. Most of the time I try to drive people to some kind of meeting or engagement. Let me bring this up a little bit. I'm not sure why this is doing this. Of course, this always happens in the middle of a demo. Let me bring this up. Must be processing. Let me go over here. Bear with me for just a second. Well, there we go. Okay. So try to get people engaged in the meeting and come to the office. Let's sit down and talk. There's hold, nurture. So, you know, they're not ready to move forward yet. I still want to continue talking with them. I still want to track them. You know, I'm interested. That's a future sale. Then I go into something called portal invite. So I use portals quite a lot in order to show my customers or prospective prospects properties that are coming either to buy or rent, those kinds of things. And I've discovered that over time that you can invite them to a portal, but that doesn't mean they logged in and actually went into it. So I have a stage specifically for portal invite. And they don't get out of that stage until I see some kind of evidence that they've actually opened up the portal. And it does help me kind of go in and call them back and say, hey, I set up the portal for you last week. Haven't seen you logged in. Do you have a problem? Did you not get it? Sometimes I find out that either they didn't get it or, oh, yeah, I saw it. I just haven't clicked on it. I'm busy, da, 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 da. Well, if they're not actively shopping, then, you know, we're not going to move forward on anything. A lot of times when I have a conversation with a customer, another kind of pre-stage bucket or pre-stage thing in my funnel is something called a BFI or pre-approval. Perhaps they're looking to buy a house. Do you have a BFI from there? If they're looking to mortgage it, has a pre-approval been done? So we'll talk about doing a pre-approval, and I will then give them information, contact my mortgage guy, you know, who are you working with, those kinds of things. I'll drop them into this stage. And so I kind of know in order for them to move forward and buy a home, we've got to get this pre-approval done. And so I can kind of ride them on those kinds of things. Then I go into something called Portal Active. Now, Portal Active is when I've got a confirmation that they're actually using the tool, but they haven't contacted me yet, you know, or it could be that they're just watching it. I can go into MLS. I can see their activity. I get email notifications when those activity, when they're actually in the tool and those kinds of things. But more importantly, they're sitting in that bucket knowing that they're kind of staged, they're ready, they're looking at properties, and I'll either contact them or they'll contact me when they want to go see something. Then I have actually a stage called showing properties. So in this particular case, they're going to drop into that field when we have something scheduled. And then I finish off this pipeline with either as a rental or a buyer, they made an offer, or they put in an application. I track it there, so I know that we're in the process of either writing the offer and or if you do a fair amount of rentals, which I do, you could sit for weeks, it seems, trying to get someone to finish off, you know, a PARA, a PA rental application. So it sits in there to remind me that, hey, that's got to get done. And then the submittal, the offer gets submitted. Generally, I don't lose track of buyer offers, but rental offers, you know, if you've got multiple in queue, you want to make sure that you're keeping track of that, and it's kind of a reminder. Then you get into an acceptance or, you know, closing where they got the offer or they accepted the offer, and then there's a whole series of work that needs to be done in that particular stage. Now, I could detail that. I could set up more and more pipeline stages, but again, sometimes it gets to be you get to be a slave to the tool. You actually want to work this so it becomes a tool that you can use versus something that that is really not helpful. So last but then we get into back office processing and testimonials, and then closed and wash, and then did buyer rental leads that are there. So in essence, that's kind of how I do things. And then when in terms of Lisa, for an example, I'll go over to this particular record, and we can see in here, all the neat notes about our notice, our final presentation. Here it is if I need to bring it up. These fields over here are all customized. So if you were to go back and looked at all of those columns that we saw in there, those are all here. So you can individually put them in, and you can then add additional contacts and those kinds of things that are there. One of the things that I wanted to show you real quick, let me just get back over to pipelines. Give an example of something that just, let me get over to this other one. Now, I've created multiple pipelines, and I have discovered over time that it gets a little confusing to have too many pipelines, say one for sellers and listings, and the other ones for buyers. And so I'm going to go into a process where I'm going to combine them both together, and I'm moving through that process now, so I have them all in one place. But more importantly, I got a call, and I'm looking to see. I got a call from one of my clients who was in a portal, and we talked, and she was interested in going out to see a property. And so I ended up updating her record and moving it from, she was in a portal invite stage, and I had confirmation that she was actually using the portal. And I'm now setting up a showing for her and for tomorrow. And I had some of these emails all lined up, but I don't see it now. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to go try to find it. But more importantly, what I wanted to stress, at least, is that all of these stages are customizable. You can change them, you can move them, you can do anything that you want with them. And in case in point, I've set up, if you go over into this section here, I've set up check marks where, is their PARA done? And I would check is a BFI done? Is a pre-approval done? So I can get a quick glance of where we are with that particular customer if I happen to lose track, or it's been a while since we talked to them. So I find it actually extremely helpful in that regard. And then last but not least, I want to kind of come back out and see if we can get some any questions in a Q&A. So let me know what you think. Anybody have any questions that we'd like to refer to? I know I got one of them during the presentation, and that was specifically about teams. That middle video that I talked about before was specifically around teams. You can use this in teams. It's very helpful. I think you saw in the video where they were sending emails back and forth to each other, tracking email files together with each other, all centered around the customer and the customer needs and where we are in the process. And so if you have a team and you're having difficulties with that coordination process, you may want to try this out. And again, one of the things that I always want to stress here is that with anything with new software or any new tools that you want to use the crawl, walk, run theory. So don't spend hours trying to program this. Start it out, get it at a basic level, start using it, and then realize, hey, I want to add a different stage here. So learn how to do that, add a stage, manage those kinds of things, and then grow it as you see fit. In my particular case, as I was saying before, I set it up, and I keep tweaking it and changing it based on my needs or those stages. I may decide that it's difficult getting customers into a meeting right off front, so why don't I get them into a portal and then ask for a meeting? Kind of move those stages around and see if it best fits my needs. With that, let me come back out to the presentation. And
You did have a couple questions, Peter,
Okay.
or a couple comments. Let's see, Scott Geller. They did have the real estate add-on, Ray Act. And then what is closed won versus closed loss mean?
Oh, this is tracking that I do in terms of, when I was moving forward with the customer, things were going well, and something happened. Somebody decided to not move forward. It could be that it's a client that I have one client that, who are great clients, and they're just, they decided to move out of the area. So that's a loss. And while I may not capture that one specifically again, I'm tracking that so I can go back and I might do a marketing campaign around those. So in some cases, especially if, here's a good example, rentals. So if you're doing a rental and you put in an application for something, they don't get it. Okay. That's unfortunate. And then they find either a place on their own, or you still have that contact information. You may want to go back to those customers and make sure that they're in your marketing programs, to make sure that you follow up with them, that you can get some kind of drip campaign to go re-engage them in some way. Sometimes you know exactly when they actually are due for renewal of their lease, and you can call them ahead of time. So I find by moving them into an area that, either won or we lost, that it does provide some value if I go back through that loss bucket and find out people that, hey, they were really great people. Let me reach out to them and see if now's a good time for them.
There are no further questions in the chat. If anybody has a question, you can unmute yourself now for Peter, and it looks like that might be it, Peter.
Okay. Just to finish off, if you have any questions or that come up after the presentation, by all means, please give me a call. I'm at 215-208-0778 is my mobile phone. My email is peter.macdonald, MacDonald. It's all one word, at foxroach.com. You could also find me on the web, obviously, at www.petermacdonald@foxroach.com. Find me there, and please give me a call. Would love to chat. And hopefully you found this presentation helpful and you can use it in your business.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Peter. And we do appreciate you sharing your tips with us today. As I mentioned earlier, when we first got on, we are recording this, and we will be sending this out to the entire membership along with Peter's PowerPoint. So Peter's information is on that PowerPoint as well. We'd also like to thank Ryan Burridge, one of our affiliate members, for joining us today. And thanks everyone for joining us so close to the holiday. And enjoy your holidays.
Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.